Hi, everybody. It's Erin Scott here. How are you doing? It's been a little while, it feels like, since I've done a video. It's been, what, a week or so? Maybe a little bit more. I'm going to turn on some bird song in the background here. Just give me a second. We're going to talk about the equinox. So I'm recording this on Thursday. Here we go. We have some nice bird song in the background now. So we have a lot going on. Today, it is the beginning of a new cycle, naturally. So it's the equinox today, but it's actually not happening until tonight, late tonight. In fact, the very end of the day on Thursday the 19th Eastern Time. So we're looking at this time for this equinox point, and you can see it's happening at almost midnight. So for our friends in the UK and Europe, etc., this is going to be happening on the 20th. But essentially what we have here is a new cycle beginning naturally. The sun will move into Aries soon. And so I'm going to be taking a look at the symbology. Every year when the sun moves into this beginning portal of an entire new cycle of experience, because that's exactly what this is, there's a symbology that's tied in to the storyline of the new beginning. And because we are in such a kind of pristinely beautiful time of radicalized shift and change, there's intensified collapses happening. There are things coming to light. There is obligatory slowdown. There's reparation of the earth happening. This is a tremendous time, unprecedented. And there's a lot of beauty to glean. There are two yods that I'm going to be talking about in the chart for this equinox point. So this is a narrative here. This is a thematic narrative for this new cycle, really for the year ahead, everybody. So we're going to look at this. Now, what I want to look at first, before we look at the astrology, is I want to show you this. This is from the, let me just move this over a little bit. Move this centered here. Okay. So this was written by a wonderful astrologer by the name of Chanka Sunderland. She's out of the UK. And this particular write-up here is something that she does every year for Astrocal. And I've been getting the Moon Diary, for many, many years now, since about 2011. So I'm going to read this. Chanka wrote this. And she writes several sections, several components of this particular diary. Okay. So this is talking about the sun entering Aries. Aries ruled by Mars, Aries, the new beginning of a cycle. And not just the beginning of a cycle, but this annual cycle, and indeed an entire growth cycle, a systemic cycle, naturally. Okay. So this is what Chanka says. The heat and light of solar power overpowers the grip of winter darkness. Of course, we're referring right now to the northern hemisphere, all right? Initiating the outward expression of the life force's vitality. Energy that bursts headlong into empty space through every leaf that pioneers beyond the confine of stem and branch. Propelled by the expanding waters within and drawn heavenwards by the light of the sun. It is strong enough to break through all resistance. It boldly goes where none has gone before, leaving cozy earthly womb of winter behind in its eagerness to come into being in the realm of air and fire and say, "Here I am, notice me." What we're talking about with this Ram energy, with this Mars energy, with this burgeoning forth energy, it is number one in the I Ching. It is the creative impetus. It is life force. This is the bursting of the seed, the germinating seed. Okay. So, with that all being said, we're here in the natural cycle. Now, this particular cycle in 2020 is going to be different. It's a different cosmological blueprint as it would have been for 2019, as it would have been for 2018. Every year, it's a new narrative that's naturally imbued in the fabric of consciousness for the growth and evolutionary process for each of us as human beings, right? Now, when we're looking at the sun moving into Aries, let's look at the symbology here. And I'm going to pull up the Sabian symbol, which was originally channeled by Elsie Wheeler and Mark Edmund Jones, the astrologer with Elsie, got together in this 1925 gathering to channel all of the 360 degrees of the zodiac wheel. But it was Dane Rudhyar who took the symbologies that Mark Edmund Jones had transcribed and took the deeper dive. So when we're looking at the Sabian symbol for this particular, in fact, let's move this over and let's pull this over. Let me get myself a little bit organized here, okay? So when we're looking at the Sabian symbols here, the one that I'm going to read to you now, this was written by Dane Rudhyar. So he took the original symbology and he took the deep dive with it, the psychological dive, the humanistic dive, the deep ecology dive, really, too. So let's go to this articulation. Okay. So we're looking at the beginning of the wheel here, everybody. Okay. So you can see here there's different acts. He took all the symbols of the wheel and there's sub-cycles within the greater cycle. So when we're looking at this initial scene, he categorizes it here as desire. And indeed, it speaks to what Schenker writes about. It's the initiation force. It's the creative life force. Okay. So here we are. We have, let me get rid of this. We have Aries, 0 to 1 degree. Okay. Now it's important to note, it is important to note that when we're talking about the symbols, the actual point when the sun moves into 001, meaning 0 degrees and 1 minute, this is actually the point where the official symbol starts. But we are reading this in order to discuss this initial prompting point of the 000 sun. I hope that makes sense. When we're looking at these symbologies, we're looking at the degree point plus 1 to the next whole degree point. So for example, 0 degrees, 01 minutes to 0 degrees, 1 degree, 00 minutes. That's what we're looking at here, okay, to be very precise. So just understand that, but it's not, it's no big deal. Now let me get rid of that just to ease up my document here. Okay. All right, everybody. So let's take a look. A woman just risen from the sea. A seal is embracing her. The keynote, the emergence of new forms and of the potentiality of consciousness. Now I want you to think about this because this is the narrative, the signature, the story, the information that lives according to the psychic, according to what was channeled in the mid-20s. But many people, including myself, have been working with these symbols for multiple years. There is alignment to the narratives that come through here. And for those of you who have had your natal analyses done with me and have taken the deeper dives with the symbology, you're going to understand the truth of what I'm saying here. This lives, this narrative, for those who can recognize it, lives here. Okay? So the woman just risen, a seal is embracing her. This is the new story. This is the initiation of the new human growth cycle and for humanity. So, what we're talking about here is this. This is the first of the 360 phases of the universal and multi-level cyclic process, which aims at the actualization of a particular set of potentialities. These potentialities in the Sabian symbols refer to the development of humankind's individuated consciousness or individualized consciousness. The consciousness of being an individual person with a place and function, a destiny, in the planetary organism of the earth. And in a particular type of human society and culture. To be individually conscious means to emerge out of the sea of genetic and collective consciousness, which to the emerged mind appears to be unconsciousness. Such an emergence is the primary event. So what he's talking about here is the entrance into Aries has just come from the field of unconscious. It's just come from, it's just sprung from, it's just emerged from the source field. So it's very logical here. Okay. So to be individually conscious means to emerge out of the sea of genetic and collective consciousness, which to the emerged mind appears to be unconsciousness. Such an emergence is the primary event. It is the result of some basic action, a leaving behind and emerging from a womb or a matrix, here symbolized by the sea. Let's go up to the top here. Such an action is not to be considered a powerful, positive statement of individual being. In the beginning is the act, but it is often an imperceptible, insecure act. The small, tender germ out of the seed does not loudly proclaim its existence. It has to pierce through the crust of the soil, still covered with the remains of the past. Okay? It is all potentiality and a minimum of actual presence. In the symbol, therefore, the emergent entity is a woman, symbolically speaking, a form of existence still close to the unconscious depths of generic biological nature. This is nature, in other words. Woman often is connected to natural process because just like nature, she gives birth. Okay. The woman filled with the desire to be rather than self-assertion. I want you all to take all of this with a grain of salt, by the way. This is Dane Rudhyar's filter of perception as he's articulating this. So take what I'm saying because there might be some truths here that resonate for you, but also take it with a grain of salt. Be discerning here about the language used. A lot of this was written in, the early 70s or so. So the woman is seen embraced by a seal because the seal is a mammal which once had experienced a biological, evolutionary, but relatively unconscious emergence, yet which retraced its steps and returned to the womb of the sea. The seal therefore represents a regressive step. It embraces the woman who has emerged, because every emergent process at first is susceptible to failure. This process is indeed surrounded by the memory, the ghosts of past failures during previous cycles. The impulse upward is held back by regressive fear or insecurity. The issue of the conflict depends on the relative strength of the future word and the past word forces. The possibility of success and that of failure is implied throughout the entire process of actualization. Every release of potentiality contains this twofold possibility. It inevitably opens up two paths. One leads to perfection, quote unquote, in consciousness, the other to disintegration, the return to the undifferentiated state, the state of humus, manure, cosmic dust, i.e., to the symbolic great waters of space, to chaos. This is the source field. This symbol characterizes the first of 5 stages, which are repeated at 3 levels. This stage represents the initial statement or theme of the fivefold series, which refers to the first level, the impulse to be. The beauty with this symbology, let's go ahead and shut that down. The beauty with this woman rising from the sea, the seal embracing her, is important. It is relevant. It's aligned. Because again, it's the emergence from the unconsciousness field. It's the emergence from the source. And it's this new entry into this physical embodiment, which is Aries. This is the physicality of the human existence. So the identity, the sun, enters into the physical body here. And there's insecurity there. And what was in the past, the memories of the past, the soul structure narratives that you and you and you and each of you listening to my voice now, each of you hold specific storylines, cosmological narratives that live within your psyche, period. We each hold different narratives. Some of them are shared. Many of them are shared. Actually, all of them are shared. But we hold a distinct recipe, a distinct configuration of storyline that lives within each of our blueprints. But it all comes from the source field, which is an information field. Okay? So there's insecurity with this new embodiment as we charter a new journey, a new adventure here. Now, let's talk about the astrology, everybody. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to do my best to be very concise. So, firstly, let's look at what is relating to the sun here. What we have connected here to the sun is a trine formation to Varuna, the asteroid Varuna, which represents a hyperconfidence. This is the Hindu god Varuna. So this is a level of confidence here. There's a level of righteousness with Varuna. This is trining. There's a harmonic connection between these narratives. So the identity and the new cycle that it is imparting on now is connected by harmonic relationship to a creative confidence, an individuated Leo 5th creative confidence here. So there's some new emergence that feels to the individual, despite the global shutdown and the pausing that's activated, a lot of people are going to tap into the truth of who they are. They're going to tap into an inner confidence. This is a signature for the year ahead, by the way. Okay? This is about creative expression emerging. And the thing is, if we look at this Varuna, everybody, this is connected to one of the yods, right? So Varuna is at the point of a quincunx to the asteroid Lilith, and it's at the point of a quincunx to Mercury in Pisces, ruled by Neptune. And you can see here, because we're looking at the natural zodiac wheel here, starting with Aries, and we can see naturally with this Pisces Mercury, with Neptune here, with Black Moon Lilith at 22 degrees Pisces, we can see that this is karmic process here, meaning we're starting this new process for the year in a lot of karmic communication activation. In the year ahead, karmically, there's going to be a lot of communications that are going to be at hand. There's going to be a lot of new mind, a new level of compassionate thinking, a new level of compassionate communications that is coming forward. And it's linked to the devaluation through governments and social systems of the individual. So there's a new level of compassionate mind linked to, this is by a sextile, linked by a sextile. So there's this harmonic, beautiful gifting energy of the more the social systems, the political structures, the global banking systems, the global political systems and governments that are now in this hyper oppressive modality. You have to understand that the more they devalue in the year ahead, the more the compassionate mind and love, the connection to the spiritual love of humanity, of people, of each other is going to emerge. And it is, in fact, a karmic process here with the yod. And it's connected to creative expression and confident individuation. Do you understand? This is big. This year is going to bring out people's confidence in who they are as a distinct individual. Leo. The other yod that we have here is also connecting Varuna and Lilith, right? We have this other yod which is connected to Hygeia. Hygeia is brand new to me. I have not been using Hygeia other than the last month. So Hygeia is an asteroid which represents whole health, physical health. It's also the health of the mind, sanity, whole health of physical body, whole health of mind. And the interesting thing about Hygeia, it's at number 5, which is about change, action, movement. It's about potentiality and chaos. And here we have it in Gemini. Gemini ruled by Mercury. This is about how the mind operates. So indeed, not only are we talking about physical health, which is sextiling Varuna. It's not shown here in this diagram, but it is sextiling Varuna. And there's a quincunx up here to Lilith, and this other quincunx back down here to Varuna. So Varuna and Lilith are engaged in 2 yod formations for this year. That means that there's 2 storylines that are obligatory experience. They're karmic. They're karmically assigned to the year ahead. Okay? Now, what does this mean? Well, it means that there will be health issues at play, and that's definitively what we have occurring with the coronavirus emerging and showing up symbolically and creating global shutdown. Small is beautiful, everybody, and this minute, molecular system here is creating massive shutdown of powers at every holonic level. Yes? Small is beautiful. It is creating the change that we need to see the clear waters of Venice, the clear air over China. It was necessary. It's functional. It's not creating, it's not that this issue that has emerged is not creating suffering and struggle and indeed death for some. It is. But if we look more holistically at what has been naturally activated, there's not only the nature getting a break, the earth getting a break, and natural systems starting to be able to clean themselves up here. It's not only that. It's also activating a more compassionate mind, a more creative mind, this Neptunian activation as well. You know, the people singing from the balconies in Italy, that's just one component here of what is bound to emerge by great leaps and bounds for this year ahead. So when we're talking about Hygeia, which is about health, we have it in the archetype of mind and social networking, communications. So health of community, health of mind, health of the way we speak about each other, health of the way we think about each other. And not only that, but physical health as well. Physical health, small small is beautiful, meaning thinking globally but acting locally. That is definitively what's activated for this year ahead. And it's definitely the way because we have the nodal axis moving into Gemini. I'll talk about that in another video. But this is about health. It's connected to creative potentiality and power and individual expression. And both of these are connected by this pinnacle point yod leading to Lilith. It's also connected distinctly and intrinsically to the South Node. This past patterning, this insistence of government and political structures, power structures, social structures, those that are in power, devaluing the individual, the past patterning, the insistence of those structures to do it, is in fact activating a new health. Health issues are at play, a new health is emerging. That's the 5. It's implicating, it's bringing about, it's catalyzing creative implementation, creative expression here. Do you understand? It's very substantial here. Now, the other thing that I want to point out, there's a couple things I want to point out. I want to look at compassion. So there's a couple additional asteroids, that I've pulled up here. Compassion is one, karma is another. These are named asteroids, okay? The human mind names things appropriately. They're connected to narratives that will come out in the storyline. The mind is nature and it connects with the natural system of the whole. So the naming of compassion and this placement of compassion is accurate. It's accurate for the now. Why is compassion accurate for the now? Number 1, it's retrograde. Number 2, it's at the number 10. Number 3, it's in Scorpio, associated with the 8th house. Compassion retrograde. This is about tapping back in. Humans tapping back in to a previously understood, a previous state, an initial state, an original state, a psychological state of compassion. Having compassion for the self, having compassion for people who are dying, 8th house Scorpio. Having compassion for people at a deep psychological level, at a deep level, at a deep emotional level. Do you understand? It's beautiful. Number 10 indicates the binary, 1 and 0. And it also speaks to a level of completion or graduation or maximalness, like a maximal nature. So there's a maximal compassion, deeply emotionally connected and psychologically engaged. It's about getting to the root, to the truth, to the shadow. It's about helping people who are dying, who are ill, who are sick. This is the compassion activated here. And we have it opposed karma. Karma and Venus and Uranus is all composed this compassion. So what is instigating the compassion, everybody? The disruptive Uranian in Taurus activations, the sudden shifts and changes with money, with security, with values, with possessions, all of this stuff. There's a recalibration that everyone's going to be doing this year when it comes to money, safety, security, home, food. This is about meeting basic essential needs and indeed abundance, issues of abundance. And it's connected here to karma. So 6, karma. This is about harmonic karma, everybody. 6, harmony. 3 above, 3 below. Heaven and earth combined into one holistic form. That's number 6. So there is rhyme and reason karmically to what is activated and to the compassion emerging. This is right. This is correct. It's also connected to values, money, and love and self-worth, right? So we have this 15 Venus right in the middle of the 0 to 30 degree archetype of Taurus, right in the dead center. This is about a level of maturity. It's midway through the growth of this archetype. So, how do we love the self? Well, we're on the journey. How do you and you and you and you value yourself? How is it that you love yourself? How is it that you recognize your value? Well, we're on the journey. We're 15 degrees in. We're learning. There's still more to learn, but we're learning it. And Venus, which also, represents love and indeed beauty and aesthetic, is also interesting because it is the ruler of Taurus. Taurus is not only about surviving and meeting our basic essential needs, but it's about thriving. It's about tapping into comforts and abundance, that which we desire to have. The interesting thing is there is a certain level of simplicity perhaps at play. I can tell you with this particular chart, which is an Eastern US chart, we have the MC also at 10 degrees in Virgo. And this is about goals for work and putting in the time and the effort for wholeness, for health, for each other, for ourselves, for everybody, for the world. But it's interesting because, there's a certain level of frugality and simplicity to this earth sign of Virgo. It's about gardening and harvesting what we grow, that kind of thing. So there's a certain level of frugality here, which I really love. For me, it's part and parcel to my signature, my own blueprint. And not all of you are going to resonate so tightly to this, but a lot of you will. And it's going to really feed a lot of people out there listening to my voice who find joy, deep joy in land, soil, gardening, the abundance of nature, tapping into the magic, intrinsic magic of nature and natural systems. This is speaking. And there's a trine to that point. There's a sextile to compassion. There is a beauty to simplicity and frugality and getting to the basics. And this 10-degree trining Venus, the karma asteroid, and Uranus is interesting because there's a harmonic there with simplicity. Earth provides, there is not lack with nature. Unless it's killed off, unless it's destroyed by dominance and the raping mentality, the waste mentality of indefinite extraction and wasteful operation. It is a complete devaluing of Earth where the human experiment has moved into this extreme orientation. We have devalued the earth and all of nature to such a degree that it took a virus to cease it, to cease it. So delight in this, everybody. If you are having issues, and a lot of people are, because what's happening with everything going on here is jobs have stopped. The normal jobs, the 9 to 5 jobs, the service jobs. And these are valuable. However, where is it pushing you into? What is the ceasing and the stopping of your work, of the job, of the distraction, of the taking up of all of the hours of your day, that incessant distraction away from yourself? What is the current chapter showing you about your trueness, your inner value system, what you love, what you desire, what your skill sets are, what brings you bliss, what do you want to learn, what are your hobbies that you want to now bring forward creatively? The thing with this Venus in Taurus, this is a certain level of evaluation of creativity and a re-evaluation of what money and possessions really mean. Do you need so much stuff? Probably not. In fact, no, you don't. Okay? So there's a certain level of karmic reevaluation of your own sense of value and what you value. What is your ethos? How do you relate your life and your own value to the externalization of possessions and money? This is part of the year ahead. It's very powerful. The other thing that I want to point out here is that if we look at where the moon is located, at the point of this entrance into the new yearly cycle, here we have the moon at Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, and it's at 13 degrees. 13 is a number of the feminine. It's also the number of nature. Nature. So the moon is about what matters to us, what has meaning to us, what we as individuals and on the collective level, what we feel is important, what we are emotionally resonant with, what we have a need to attain or connect into. 13 is nature. And the interesting thing, the perfect paradox here is that it's the meaning of nature here as it serves the collective, the 11th house, as it's needed for all of us to thrive, to have an ideal life experience here on this planet. But look where it's located. The moon in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is complex, as you've heard me say before. It is a complex archetype. Yes, it is the humanitarian, because Aquarius and the ruler Uranus rule the evolutionary process of humanity from the deep quote unquote past to the refined quote unquote future. Everything is simultaneous in the source field. So there is no time really, but humans, we all experience time on this planet. So from the barbaric, detached iteration of this archetype, cruel and unusual, emotionally devoid, because that's part of this narrative, to the refined, healthfully detached, able to view things holistically and concerned about the welfare of the collective. All of that lives in this archetype. And the moon is all of that, meaning there's going to be a level of humanitarian effort that is arising on behalf of the planet this year. What it also means is that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be more Uranian in its more devolved iteration. There's going to be some cruel, detached, technological abuses that will occur this year. We're already seeing it with the 5G insistence. 5G, this kind of microwave, intensified, energetic interruption to life, everybody. So the moon in Aquarius, for some, this is going to activate your inner humanitarian. The moon in Aquarius for others this year, it's going to activate a more cruel, unusual, and barbaric, technologically themed abuse. Do you understand? There's always an abuse signature. There's always a trauma signature when we're talking about Aquarius. Whether somebody perpetuates the abuse or whether somebody acts on behalf of the abuse, that is our free will choice. Okay? So, the moon at 13. Many women will arise this year. I'm going to repeat that. Women will come forward this year in new numbers. And with the sun at the point, symbolically, with the woman rising from the ocean waves, you better believe there is particular significance to that, yes? We still have this activation here. Capricorn is highly activated. In fact, at the point tonight, you see that Mars is at 22 degrees on top of Jupiter at 22 degrees. So what does this mean? 22 degrees certainly is talking about the role model, the master teacher, somebody who communicates to a broad audience. When we're talking about Capricorn, certainly, of course, we're talking about these kind of Capricorn structures and leaders, political and government leaders. having their time at the pulpit or the podium. So this is a lot of aggressive and reactionary action uh, taking place in mass communication um, modalities. But for others, what this talks about is in your work and career, in all of each of you listening to me, in each of your work and career portals, or the emerging work and career, the more aligned work and career that is now coming forward because of the ceasing and the stopping of the fast food job or the waitress job or the service job that is now no longer happening because of the shutdowns. The beauty of that, what is it that wants to emerge through you? What is your optimally aligned career or work in the world? What is the natural tendency to your blueprint? Where is your bliss? So this 22-degree Mars can be inspirational and passionate and motivated. Mars is the ruler of Aries, and this is a new cycle for this Mars energy, and it's meeting, the ruling planet is on top of Jupiter. So there's this certain level of great expansive energy. Jupiter is expansive, and it expands wherever it is and whatever it's activating. So there's a lot of energy, but there's also a lot of conflict here too, everybody. This year is both and. There's going to be passionate teachings that will come forward, but there will also be angry and conflictive or aggressive or dominating. Keep in mind, Mars and Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn are all in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Also Lilith, also South Node, also Pallas Athena. And you could see that Pallas Athena is actually very close to, almost right on top of Mars and Jupiter. Pallas Athena is the empowered feminine. It is the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of war. There will be women that come forward this year. There will be more an impassioned, confident, grounded, embodied action set that comes through humans in general. But what I'm claiming here is, especially with the 13-degree moon, there's going to be more women coming up and out in political positions, in leadership positions, and in your individual careers. We have the signature, interestingly, very appropriately, of Saturn at 29 degrees. Do you see this? You can also see them all listed, of course, over here. So you can see that Saturn, 29 degrees Capricorn, 50 minutes, 50 seconds, right? So 29 degree, this is a critical degree. It's at the very end of the archetypal journey. A critical degree, a 29-degree planet, indicates that there's a growth edge activated. There's a need to mature how Saturn operates and functions within the collective, within government and political structures, etc., on behalf of corporate entities. There's a need to mature. There's a need to become accountable. There's a need to become self-responsible. Yes? But that's the case for all of you as well. You are called to become accountable and responsible and disciplined with regards to what you do in this world. Your actions matter. Your vote matters. Where you put your dollar bill matters. Everything you buy is a vote for that paradigm or reality on this planet. So there's a need to be mature. But 29 degree Saturn, or any planet at 29 degrees, is also going to have the urge to be devolved, to activate in a devolved way. People don't want to grow up. People don't want to have limits and constraints. They don't want to be mature necessarily. So what will the 29-degree Saturn do in this year ahead? It will activate hyper-disciplinarian actions, laws that constrain and restrict. It will be hyper-controlling. So the governments, the corporations, the leadership globally, and you in your life, men as well. Because when we're talking about Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, we're talking about the masculine. Down here, where the North Node is, this is Cancer, the mother, the feminine. So this 29-degree Saturn is going to bring forward a lot of hyper-controlling attempts by the masculine structures and the masculine embodied people on this planet that choose to go that route. It's their free will choice. They can mature, but some people, many people, are going to choose not to mature. Do you understand? So with all of this here, the other thing that I'm going to point out, this is going to be the last thing I'll point out here, everybody, is that there's two things I'm going to finish with. One is that the sun is conjunct Chiron here. Chiron is at 5 degrees. Chiron is talking about action, movement, change, chaos, and the potentiality and the creative potentiality in that chaos process. So we're talking about a level of insecurity with Chiron. We're talking about a level of self-doubt with Chiron. And because it's conjunct the sun, the persona, your particular personality, your particular persona, who you are out in the world, you know, there's going to be a level of insecurity as you walk your identity this year. However, when we're talking about Chiron, this is the master teacher and the master healer. So the identity is going to be urged to step up to the plate with the changes happening. There will be insecurity and self-doubt. However, there is a healer inside of you. There is a teacher inside of you. Does that mean that everybody needs to be very loud online and very loud in their teachings? No. No. You are the one to go in yourself and find, how is it that you're here to serve? Or be a role model in a way that is completely aligned with the call for you now, your particular blueprint now. What is your current cycle now? Okay. So there's insecurity, yet there's gifts here that you're here to bring, whatever they look like. And they don't need to fill up the information field with a lot of noise. A lot of people feel a lot of egoic impulse to speak, you know. So, you know, turning stuff off and the initial shutdown of all of these systems, this kind of isolation, yet there's more compassion and connection happening now, ironically and perfectly, paradoxically and aligned. So the other thing that I want to point out in addition to this is Lilith. Black moon Lilith at 22 degrees Pisces, 22 exactly sextiling 22 degrees Jupiter and 22 degrees Mars. It's also sextiling Pluto. Very exactly. Okay. And it's also sextiling 21 degrees Pallas Athena. All of these points are being hit with this beautiful harmonic connection. So this storyline and this storyline, these functions and this function are connected, and they're evoking the emergence, or they're evoking the birth of a gift. I'm going to repeat that. The function of Lilith here and the function of Pallas Athena, Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto here, and indeed Saturn as well, are all bringing forward inner gifts. Okay? Now, this in Pisces, Black Moon Lilith in Pisces, is about a spiritual devaluation, a spiritual or existential sense of not feeling valued, meaning there is going to be testing that we will all go through this year. Are the powers that be so powerful and so in control that, you know, there's any way to get through it? But the 22 degree points here are very telling, because it speaks to the fact that the teacher within each of you is going to be emerging to help with compassion every person and every demographic of people who have been devalued by the government, by the political establishment, by the government leaders, by the corporate entities that rule really the world. So this is fantastic because it does indicate that there's new leadership emerging that's going to be more compassionate, more tuned in to the needs of those who have been debased, devalued, ignored, and denied. And people's individual power, individual responsibility is going to be emerging and puncturing through this kind of attempt for the powers that be to suppress and oppress. I think I'm going to leave it there. What I'm going to say is this. For those who are familiar with my work, if you go to this website, you go to my services page, you're going to notice that there is some sales activated. You're going to see everything here. Okay? What I will say to you is that, and this is, there's some of these that could be interesting for some of you. I am going to instigate more sales coming up, probably this weekend. But the one thing that I'm going to tell you now, because I'm going to be posting this video on Thursday the 19th, is that starting tonight, all of you born with an Aries sun, I'm going to be discounting your solar return analysis for the year ahead. So for all of the Aries out there listening, you have a particular sale given to you for this month ahead. And then for the next month ahead, it's going to be for Tauruses. Every month, I'm going to activate the appropriate signs sale. Does that make sense? So if you want to be made aware of the sales, you can always go to my website and go to the calendar at the bottom, and the calendar will show what's activated, and it will show when the new sale gets enacted, essentially. Okay, so you can see here, this is for Pisces, right? All right, everybody, so I hope that this was able to provide you some important data, some confirmations, some peace and ease. Please understand that nature does nothing wastefully, and that doesn't serve not only function, but multiple functions. Multiple functions. This process that we're in now, this global moment, this current chapter, there's different ways to perceive it. So I invite you to see more holistically what is activated, and to see more holistically and to feel more internally and truthfully about what the current constraints or limits activated for you. Where is that driving you to go? Where is that driving you to look? What changes is it obligating you to make? Because I guarantee you, those changes and those different directions that are now obligated because you've been pushed because of the limits enacted, this is for your benefit. And it's not only for your benefit, it's for the benefit of the collective. So I send you much love, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.